Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to Lavender Rights Live. Today, we are joined by Bryanna Jenkins. And once again, my name is Bryan Dunncan. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them. I'm Lavender Rights Project's Policy and Program Manager, social worker, equity trainer, and your host for this afternoon. As I said, we are joined today with Bryanna Jenkins, and we're here to discuss her work as a civil rights attorney. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, of course. If you could, once again, could you please tell us your name, pronouns, and a bit about what your work is?
My name is Bryanna A. Jenkins. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I identify myself as a civil rights attorney. For the past year, I worked with the National Civil Rights Organization that was committed to racial justice, and I work in the education space. I've since pivoted to a new organization where I do labor and employment work on the plaintiff side. But aside from that, my personal interest is in the LGBT plus rights law with a specific interest for transgender and gender non-conforming people and their relationships to the law.
Wonderful. That is incredible work. And once again, thank you so much for being here and talking with us about that work today. And just really quick, before we get started, knowing you're an attorney, does this presentation give folks any kind of attorney-client privilege? I know it doesn't with me because I'm a social worker, but what about with you?
No. So for attorney-client privilege to work, that would lie with the actual client. They hold the power in that relationship, and they would specifically have to seek me out for legal information. And I just for transparency, Bryanna Jenkins is only licensed to practice law in the District of Columbia, and I'm the first one to say that, particularly for the people who are out of state that come to me with legal questions, I can talk to you topically about an area of law, but I highly suggest that you talk to people that are licensed in the particular states or the particular areas where you may be experiencing stuff, because they will be able to give you a more specific answer, and they will be able to create that relationship with you more than I could. But no, nothing said in the course of this conversation will create any attorney-client privilege. As I don't know if we'll have a Q&A section, but I'm only here talking to you right now, so.
Yeah, no, it's just going to be you and me, but it's the sort of thing where, because we're talking about stuff that's revolving around the law, I always like to make sure folks know,
Right.
All right. And thank you for clearing that up. And I know you told us a little bit about what you do earlier, but if please, I would love for you to elaborate more about your work and why it's so important.
So in reference to LGBTQ plus issues, most of my legal work, I've only been licensed since 2020. I finished law school in 2019. A lot of my work has been scholarly. So before I even graduated law school, I was able to publish a law review article arguing for transgender people's constitutional right to amend their identity documents. And since then, my article has been cited in a Utah Supreme Court case where the Utah Supreme Court held that trans people could change their gender markers on their driver's licenses. I've been able to write about a plethora of topics related to transgender people and transgender people's rights. Also, in my last organization, I participated in an amicus brief challenging the House bill out of Idaho that banned transgender women for participating in athletic sports in the state of Idaho. And I was able to, since my organization was a racial justice organization, I was kind of able to, along with another gender-based national organization, we were able to really speak to how laws like those, in addition to impacting trans people, they have the ability to also impact cis women of color who also face rampant amounts of transphobia, particularly in sports. So So work-wise, I was able to participate in amicus briefs, and I'm very early on in my career. As I continue to move throughout my career, I'm going to continue to write. That's something that I'm very passionate about, but definitely want to put myself in situations where I can take on more cases to directly advocate for the community, whether it be individual representation or in the impact litigation type of way.
That all sounds like absolutely astounding work so far. And thank you so much for your dedication. And especially thinking about the intersectional lenses that you're taking, you're making sure that folks actually get the kind of coverage and help that they need. Knowing that you just said that you're early on in your career, are there any particular areas that you really are looking forward to kind of delving into more, doing more research or writing on?
Well, I am interested in examining the right to vote. So the right to vote is a very it's a hot issue now, but also possibly examining the constitutional implications for denying people identity documents and how that contributes to our lack of a right. Well, not that we don't have the right to vote, but how these laws create systems where it's difficult for us to access the right to vote, and how it's in vain with voter suppression that's rampant in this country. I'm also interested, so in law school I got a lot of opportunities doing police misconduct work. So one day I hope to pivot and reorient my practice to kind of get back to doing police misconduct work and basically suing cities and suing police officers for misconduct. I think it's needed. Unfortunately, trans folks, particularly trans folks of color, are negatively impacted by police and the police system. So I just, as I move forward, I'm just open to whatever practice area that I get the opportunity to practice in. But within the center of all of it, I carry myself and I carry my community. So I'm always looking looking for those intersections where I can bring my experience or bring my lens to kind of advocate for us to work with different clients or work with different cases or just take a different approach to how we speak to the court or different things we advocate for while a case is ongoing.
Wow, that is definitely very important work to be pursuing, especially considering things that have been happening historically and recently, and being able to actually have some accountability. That is a wonderful thing to pursue. Thank you. And before we wrap up today, thinking about how you center these populations in your work and the way that they are currently and have historically been treated by community, and therefore these things like these amicus briefs and stuff are needed. What can we as community members do to support your work or the communities that you are helping?
I would say that even though being a lawyer and using the law to advocate is a powerful tool, like we cannot forget that grassroots movements, especially in this particular time, are so powerful. I personally believe that's one of the reasons that we've gotten the little bit of change legally that we have in the past couple of years, because the power of grassroots movements, the power of folks who don't have law degrees or who aren't lawyers, they're able to move the culture forward in a way that forces these legal systems and institutions to have to respond, because they know that not only is this going to harm people, but people are going to be silent about it. So my advice is for folks to continue doing what they're doing, because it does make a difference when you have these big cases, for instance, like before the Supreme Court, and you had people rallying, showing their support, showing, hey, we do exist, it does matter. And if the court gets it wrong, it's going to impact our lives in a real way. it's easy to not see and act like it doesn't exist, especially in the legal world where there's a lack of diversity. But because there's no barriers to entry for any person that wants to protest, and the power of social media, the power of Twitter, just how easy it is for us to get the word out there and to organize both digitally and in person, I personally believe that it has caused culture, it has caused laws to move and have to consider the ramifications of how they decide and how they come down on a certain decision, especially when you look to the Supreme Court and a lot of these cases where you think they're going to come down one way, and even though they might not necessarily be too far left, they might not be too far right, but they're having to kind of twist logic in a way because they are concerned about what the people on the ground are going to think, and that's due to the power of the masses protesting and really making their voices be heard. So I would just say continue to be empowered to do what we're all doing to make a difference.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Like, that call to action really was a very powerful and moving one. So truly thank you. And yeah, really that is it for today. Bryanna, thank you so much for joining me and us and discussing your work with us today as a civil rights attorney and telling us about all the amazing things you've been doing. Please feel free to let us know if there's anywhere that we can plug you, or if people want to look into more of the work you're doing, we can include some of that information. But thank you once again to everyone who tuned in, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day.
Right. Before I get off, I'm on LinkedIn, so just look me up on LinkedIn. If you want to email me, send me an email. Bryanna A @me.com. That's BRYANNA AEON @me.com. That's how you can get in contact with me. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you so much.